News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris. Nvidia delivered a sales forecast of $91 billion for the 3 months ending in July, which drew a tepid reaction from investors. Nvidia faces growing competition from other chip makers, but Paul Meeks, the head of technology research at Freedom Capital Markets, says calling this disappointing may be misleading.
I don't think that there's any problem at all with the guidance. I think if they do announce Chinese business, take whatever revenues you're expecting for that fiscal year and add 15% to it. So it's only going to be icing on the cake. But I feel pretty good about it.
Paul Meeks at Freedom Capital Markets on Bloomberg Business Week Daily. Nvidia shares paring back those losses, now more than 1% higher in late trading. SpaceX filed publicly for its initial public offering, moving a step closer to delivering the world's biggest ever debut. The company chose NASDAQ to make its debut under the symbol SPCX. Sources tell Bloomberg SpaceX is targeting as much as $75 billion in its listing at a valuation of more than $2 trillion. Anthropic's revenue is reportedly set to more than double to $10.9 billion in the second quarter. The Wall Street Journal reports Anthropic disclosed the figures to investors as part of an ongoing funding round that's likely to push its valuation above OpenAI's. Now, OpenAI is preparing to file for an IPO in the coming weeks and is targeting a public debut sometime in the fall. The company is working with Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley to make a confidential IPO filing as soon as Friday. The Financial Times reports the company's been laying the groundwork for an offering expected to value it at more than $1 trillion. Intuit shares are down 11% in after-hours trading after reporting third-quarter results that beat estimates and raised their full-year revenue guidance for fiscal 2026, but it also said it's cutting about 17% of its staff. World news now. The U.S. charging former Cuban President Raul Castro with murder. The charges were announced by Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche.
Mr. Castro and the others are charged with additional crimes as well, including destruction of aircraft and 4 individual counts of murder.
The charges are related to the downing of 2 civilian aircraft more than 30 years ago.
On February 24th, 1996, 2 civilian aircraft operated by Brothers to the Rescue were shot down over international waters by military aircraft from Cuba. 4 men were killed.
Cuba President Miguel Diaz-Canel says the U.S. indictment of Raul Castro is a political move with no legal basis. President Trump says there won't be an escalation on Cuba.
There won't be escalation. I don't think there needs to be. Look, the place is falling apart. It's a mess. And they've sort of lost control. They've really lost control of Cuba.
Trump says the U.S. will make an announcement soon about the oil embargo on Cuba. Iran warns it will retaliate across the Middle East if the U.S. or Israel resume attacks. President Trump says the U.S. is in the final stages of those talks with Iran. While speaking with reporters as he prepared to board Air Force One, President Trump was asked about how long he would hold off on another strike in Iran.
I'm in no hurry. You never think, oh, the midterms, I'm in a hurry. I'm in no hurry. Ideally, I'd like to see few people killed as opposed to a lot. We can do it either way, but I'd like to see few people killed.
President Trump says he is not worried about whether Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will order strikes on Iran, saying, quote, he'll do whatever I want him to do. 2 police officers who helped defend the U.S. Capitol from an attack by a mob of Trump supporters are suing to block anyone, including the January 6 rioters, from receiving payouts from a new nearly $1.8 billion settlement fund. The officers filed the lawsuit a day after Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche defended the fund's creation during a congressional hearing. More than 100 police officers were injured during that riot, and more than 1,600 people were charged. President Trump used his pardon powers to erase those cases. A majority of Federal Reserve officials warned the central bank would likely need to consider raising interest rates if inflation continues to run persistently above their 2% target. Bloomberg's Michael McKee has the minutes from the Fed's April meeting.
A majority of participants highlighted, the minutes say, that some policy firming would likely become appropriate if inflation were to continually run above the 2% target. The vast majority noted inflation could take longer to return to target than they had previously expected.
The minutes show many officials called for the Fed to drop its easing bias and signal its next move could be an interest rate increase. Former Democratic Congressman Barney Frank of Massachusetts has died. He was the chair of the House Financial Services Committee and worked with Republicans to craft the Troubled Asset Relief Program to rescue the American financial system in 2007 and 2008. He also co-wrote the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act of 2010. Former Massachusetts Congressman Barney Frank was 86 years old. Aaron Rodgers says the 2026 NFL season will be his last. The Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback said this is it when asked if he will retire at the end of the season. The 42-year-old Rodgers says the hiring of Mike McCarthy as coach played a factor in his decision to return to the Steelers for one more season. That's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris, and this is Bloomberg.